Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new, please subscribe. So this is going to be a video about my most used eyeshadow palettes for the year 2020. These are some of my favorite eyeshadow palettes and ones I used a lot this year. We'll just jump right in. This is no surprise. It's going to be the Too Faced Born This Way, the Natural Nudes eyeshadow palette. This palette has so many beautiful nude shades. Of course, this palette got some bad reviews online because these shimmers, people were saying, were really difficult to work with. I apply them wet and they just work great for me that way. But yeah, at first when you like swatch them and you're gonna wear them dry, they are hard to work with dry. Like, that is true. But when you wet your brush and you go in with these shimmers, they're like shimmer pressed glitters. They're super blinding, super pigmented. Love them. I have many tutorials with this palette. So I highly recommend this palette. Definitely one of my top used eyeshadow palettes this year. Next is actually another Too Faced eyeshadow palette. It's called Natural Matte. And this one is one that I used whenever I traveled because it has the most perfect cool and warm tones. Do you see those? They're like perfect. They're like cold and warm tone. So you have your cools down here and your two warm up here. Then you have these like highlighting transition shades. And I just reached for this a lot. I used it a lot. It's super blendable. It's like matte, so you can make like a perfect everyday eyeshadow look with this palette, and you can mix it up with like a highlighter or a shimmer, and it's just like the perfect traveling palette. So this is definitely one of my top used eyeshadow palettes this year. Next, no surprise, Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. This is like all the rave and all the rave for a reason. I definitely use this a lot this year. Of course, it's just like another nude, neutral, warm tone, and there's some cool tones palette. I definitely use this a lot. Love this palette, so great. If you don't have this in your collection, you need it. This is probably 4 years old and I love it. So next, this is a palette that I added towards the end of the year, and this is the Morphe Medicine Beer Channel Surfing Artistry palette. And there's so many beautiful shades in here. I created a few looks with this palette and I just love it. The shimmers are really great. Some shades are hard to work with, but other than that, this is just a really good palette and I definitely love this a lot this year. So another neutrals palette, and this is another one by Too Faced, and this is the Natural Lust palette. I have many tutorials using this palette, and of course this is just a really good selection, a really good go-to. You have a lot of really pretty nudes, shimmers, and then you have some pop of colors here like this blue and other shades. Definitely recommend this palette, super good. I use this a lot. Definitely one of my favorites this year. Next are going to be two palettes that are no surprise, and they are by ColourPop. Well worth the money. I'm telling you, you need both these palettes, and with both these palettes you will be able to create so many great, fantastic looks. So I have Bare Necessities palette, which is like the warmer tone palette, and I have Stone Cold Fox palette. These two palettes, I'm telling you, once you have these, you're gonna be like blown away. They're just so good, and these are really all you need. So first, I'm gonna have the Bare Necessities palette, because this is the palette I have the most, and because I didn't come out with a full tone one until like later this year. So I have many tutorials using this palette. It's so pretty. You have so many shades. Like, this is definitely one I take traveling. I love it. Great quality. ColourPop, as always, killing it. Just such a good palette. You definitely need this, and it was definitely one of my most used palettes this year. Next, of course, Stone Cold Fox by ColourPop, and this is what this one looks like. So pretty. I have a lot of friends that really like the cool tone look. This is a palette I use on them. Highly recommend it. Definitely used this a lot this year, like the end of the year when it came out. I have some tutorials using this palette, and I definitely recommend it. One of my top used palettes this year. And next, another ColourPop palette. This is the Going Coconuts ColourPop, and this is one I wear every day to work. I'm a nurse. I work 12-hour shifts. I wear makeup no matter what. I don't care. I wear makeup to work every single day, and so this is the palette I always use. Going Coconuts by ColourPop. It's super affordable. These shades are super blendable. The shimmers are great. There's warm tones, cool tones. This is a palette that everybody needs in their collection. It's just so affordable. I definitely take this traveling with me. It's just my go-to. I mean, look at this palette. It's perfect. Also, I dropped this palette, so some of the shades came out, and I put them back in, so I'm not sure if the names are matching the right shade, but definitely this palette was one of my everyday palettes. Last but not least is going to be the Sephora Pro palette. I mean, there's so many perfect shades in this palette. It's a good neutral palette. This is one that you can add to like a pop of color palette if you needed just some neutral shades and that palette didn't have the neutral shades. So this is a really good palette. So many shades. Really love this palette. This is probably my least used palette this year, but I definitely did use this a lot, but I used the other ones more. So that completes my favorite and most used eyeshadow palettes this year. Those are the top used eyeshadow palettes. I own so many eyeshadow palettes. I'm eyeshadow palette junky, and those ones are definitely my favorites. A lot of them are nudes. That's what I use every day, so that's really what I reach for. Out of all those, I would highly recommend you get the Going Coconuts palette because I just love that palette. It's just my everyday palette. It's just so great. Highly recommend it and super affordable. So yeah, thanks so much for watching my video. If you like makeup tutorials, that's really what I love doing, and all things makeup, then please subscribe to my channel and be sure to hit the bell for future notifications of uploads. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe.